Hi guys, Ashley here. I am your China marketing expert, and in my videos I talk about China, marketing and leadership. Today we are with Minter Dial, who is a phenomenal global expert on new retail, on entrepreneurship, on mindset. He's a professional speaker, he's a book author and a producer of a phenomenal documentary. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Ashley.
You have a couple of books, and one of the books specifically talks about empathy in business. I know that you've run big corporations before and you transformed teams and cultures. Why have you decided to write that book, and what do you mean by having empathy, love, a purpose in an organization? How does it, what is the concept and how does it actually work in real life?
Right. So starting with why I got into the book, I came into the idea because I've been thinking about it a long time, but it struck me that we're in very divisive times, and in business it's very confusing for a lot of people. I think a lot of leaders are concerned about digital transformation and then getting into this customer centricity, and actually if you go upstream it should be about employee engagement to get the good customer centricity to be profitable. And the more I thought about it, the more I understood that the superpower is empathy. So the idea is, how can businesses be empathic for their business performance? And then from there, we can perhaps change the world, because I'm a believer that business is a way to help change the world for good.
Yes, absolutely.
If we get the right attitude in place. So
there's a vehicle to that. So what is your definition of empathy?
Right, so it's a great question, because at the end of the day, everyone has an opinion on empathy, and a lot of people don't have this, well, certainly don't have, in my opinion, the right definition of empathy. So empathy, as I like to say very easily, is get into someone else's shoes.
Right.
Feel what it's like and understand what the other person's thinking and feeling. There are two parts to it. One is affective, where you are in an emotional state, understanding your emotions. I feel your emotions. You're crying, I'm going to cry. That's affective empathy. But the part that's most interesting in business is cognitive empathy, where I understand what you're feeling and understand why you're feeling what you're feeling. So when you get into that space, a lot of things happen. First of all, you start to change your worldview. Second of all, you start to get into the other person's shoes and start understanding what they're feeling, which will make you much better at getting your employees engaged and getting into the shoes of your customers, who you're ultimately trying to please.
Right. So it's a beautiful idea. We all want to essentially connect with others and understand how they feel and why they do things that they do, and essentially make, our organization to help even more people. That's a beautiful concept that I think many agree. But how to do that in a big company and in a small company? How do you effectively put that culture in place?
Well, there are two things that kill empathy in business, small or big. And one of them is stress, and the other is lack of time. Because actually being empathic does take a considerable
Asia, listen to that.
It takes time. You need to be able to listen intensely to what the other person's thinking and feeling. And there's no doubt that getting empathy is not an easy thing in business. First thing you need to do is be self-aware. How empathic are you actually today as an organization? And if you're not, then the challenge is just to become more empathic. Don't you set yourself a target that's far too high that you won't be able to achieve.
Not Mother Teresa.
In fact, we don't need to be Mother Teresa. And by the way, being empathic does not mean being nice.
Very nice. Very nice.
Being empathic means understanding the other. And if I even need to say something to you that you might not want to hear, like an order that you don't want to do, or I need to fire you, there are ways to do that empathically. And if you can understand that saying this nasty thing is going to hurt the other person, then you're going to be better equipped to deliver that message. So how do you do it? Well, first of all, be self-aware. And then the second thing is look at ways to try to change your perspectives, starting with the top. It needs to be at the highest level that you exemplify the behavior of being empathic. So as there are many ways tricks you can do. But one of them, the easiest way, if I just start with, read great literature or watch intensely well-made dramas where you are exploring the mind and the experience of somebody else in another context. And this starts you on the journey. There are many other ways to do it otherwise.
So what films shall we watch? Great literature shall we read?
I mean, I'm a big fan of Russian literature, actually. I think it's very appropriate, because when you read someone like Tolstoy or even Dostoevsky, the insights into the minds of people is what helps you, because I don't feel like I'm Raskolnikov, but to have read it, I can get into that sort of that little mind, and it helps me to understand another.
What was he going through? What
That's
was
right.
he going through?
Yeah. And then, of course, generally speaking, especially for men, because the other thing you need to understand is that there are many factors that impede empathy in business. I talked about stress and time, but it turns out there are a number of other things. One of them being male. There's 3 different things that impede empathy, make empathy challenge for men. One of them being DNA, another one being testosterone, and the third one being the way the brain is wired. There's a 4th factor, which is when you're successful. The more successful you are, the
more
less likely you are to think that being empathic is necessary.
Why is that?
Well, I got there without it. Why do I need to change? It's called the rich
and
factor.
That's very different. A lot of, at least in my experience, I work with a lot of business women as well in our community, Asia generally, like China or even Russia. There are many examples of women in power. So women lead differently. They are hard on the topic very often, especially if you are in a country like China or Soviet Russia, but you're soft on people, much softer on people. But what I see in, let's say, in Europe and in the US, when women get in the position of power, they tend to lead from this male energy.
Sure.
They try to copy. So I'm a woman, but effectively outside of just me wearing a dress, I behave exactly like a man would, because I want to be accepted in the boys' club.
That's right.
And I need to be there. I need to be in that energy a lot. I know that you studied women's studies back in school, which is a very interesting subject. You said that only 3 universities in the world back in the day actually taught women's studies. So what is women's studies, and what did it help you understand and learn and apply at work and in your professional career?
Well, to start with, Ashley, most people think that I took women's studies just as a way to pick up women. I was at university, I was young, sure, and I was the only male in the class. What was women's studies? Well, women's studies was an ability to understand everything from a woman's perspective. So this meant, for example, studying history. How does a girl who's going through high school relate to the characters in history, which is generally overtaken by men, doing manly things and written by men?
Yeah.
And so what is it? Where's a girl's place in that? What did happen to women in history? So that's an example.
What does it mean to be a woman, in other words?
Yeah. Right. And then, for example, what is a female narrative? How do you craft a book that would be less the beginning, middle, and an end? That is a very masculine and, by the way, undertone of sexual kind of narrative. And how does the woman feel? Anyway, the observation that you make is that some women, this is generalizations, being what they are.
Of course.
And what I think is interesting in the diversity plot is to accept and embrace our differences and understand that we are different, and that you don't need to abide by my masculine rules in order to succeed. But it's a hard leap of faith, because you're going to come into a board where you're going to be surrounded by men. And the option is, do I fold in, or do I stand for something? Right. And that takes a considerable amount of courage. My observation is, and statistics seem to prove out, you want to try to get to a board where you have 3 women. So if you are an individual woman who wants to join at the C-suite, make sure that there are 2 others, or that you're going to bring in 2 others in order to complement you and provide a quorum to help you allow yourselves to be you and bring what women naturally bring, which is a different touch.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are a single warrior, then most likely you're either going to leave because you're a complete outsider and people don't relate to you. They don't understand your style. They think you're completely different. It just doesn't work. Or you're going to go into male energy and you're just going to be another man wearing a skirt.
Exactly.
Right.
And the fact is that these other men are typically not so empathic, and they're not, which means that they haven't stepped out into other people's shoes.
So how would you teach them? Yeah. How would you teach? Because many organizations right now globally, big companies, small companies, well, especially big companies here in Europe, for example, or in the US, are led by white men, right? Exactly. So, and you said that there are three things, and some of it is nature, some of it is learned, and some of it is just, I got extremely successful. Why would I ever want to change?
Right.
So arrogance. How would you teach them? Because they are at the top of the company, and they need to bring it top down. How would you approach them? Help them realize and make them change, and with it transform the organization.
All right, so the way I start with this is that recognizing that that's where they come from, and they feel right to think that way. So you need to explain to them why they need to change, which can start with numbers. So give them an explanation that being empathic actually is going to help your bottom line.
Okay.
Because fear, of course, is
good for business.
Right. The fear is always going to be the thing that stops your ability to change. So why am I going to change what I've always been good at, or at least what I've succeeded with before? And that you can show numbers, and there are some good numbers that demonstrate that empathy is good for the bottom line. Then the second big why is to explain why that happens. And the first is then to customize it to the problem of the company. So if I want my company to succeed, or I want to change the opinion of a board that I'm facing about becoming more empathic, if I can understand their strategic problem, there's a great probability that empathy is the solution. So for example, well, we have a problem of turnover. Our staff isn't staying and they're not happy. Okay. Or
that's clear.
Or I have my product innovation is not fast enough. Okay. So in the first case, well, being empathic with your staff will maybe understand better what their experience is, how much their commute is, the work environment, and get into what they're feeling to make them more fulfilled. In the case of product innovation, maybe you're not listening enough to what the customers are wanting, and that'll help you to be designing a better product, besides which empathy is the superpower of design. So empathy has a way, and I don't want to be a tyrannical, empathic monster. It's not about being empathic all the time. So focus on the strategic issue that company has, and look at how empathy can participate in, not be the only answer to, but participate in helping you solve that strategic issue.
That's absolutely beautiful. Empathy and humans are essentially, one. And when we talk about technology, I know that you talk about technology a lot, you talk about AI. And when we try to integrate that empathy and love and emotions and feelings into the algorithms that we are essentially right now creating, that are going to be running our lives in a couple of years, in a decade from now, right? We're going to live a completely different life.
5 years.
Of course, and 5 years even. And how do we incorporate that in order to make our life 5 years from now a lot more enjoyable?
Well, I first of all, I think things like AI, there's much potential for malevolence. And, there's shit in, shit out in terms of bias. There are many things where we have a lot of opportunities, but there are a lot of risks. And so the idea of trying to imbue humanistic components into a machine can go down two different paths. So the issue I start with is, why are you interested in putting the emotion into the AI? And use a mirror to say, well, if I'm trying to delegate my empathy to a machine, is that a good thing? So understand the why of what you're doing is useful, because it'll help you, first of all, guide you down the path. Second of all, to make the explanation, because you do need to create narratives. And then hopefully contain what you're trying to do, because in the end of the day, there's no algorithm that's going to be capable to have general intelligence and total humanity.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is parcel out the amounts that you want to create, and then consider how you're going to do it in a way that's copacetic and has coherence with who you are. So if you are truly empathic, it'll be very much more simple to create an empathic AI. If you are not, and you were saying, well, you be empathic, but I'm going to treat you like a shit, then the chances of that happening and being good are going to be poor.
Very slim.
Much less the other impact, which is it might be well received from the customer. But when the customer also has to interact with a human, where there's no empathy happening in the background, then
it's going to be a huge disconnect.
That's right.
You talk a lot about retail. What do you think is going to be the future of retail in the coming 5 years?
Well, if you walk down so many high streets, it's just it's a tragedy. So there's it is, and there's so much unhappiness, and which goes down to the business model is broken. The issue of the interaction between e-commerce is not connected into the stores, as you so well know. This whole idea of blending all that and making one retail. The experience is the real answer as far as I'm concerned. You can't be stepping away from selling, but creating some unique experiences. I often like to look at the music industry as a way into this world. There's a rock and roll band that I followed that allowed people to record concerts. Most concerts, well, they don't like the idea of recording because that's what I sell as an object.
That's my IP.
That's right. Then there are other people who are against the filming because you're not listening to me, you're just looking at your screen.
Right.
And I get that. Yet this is what this is about. Anyway, the notion of configuring your experience to be so unique that someone says, "Hey, Yash, you never guess what happened to me today. I went to the store
and here,
wow, this blah, 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 blah." So what story are people saying when they walk out of your store? And the way to get into that is creating micro experiences, unique moments, and of course, hopefully a great product. But it's in that mold that I think the retail store has to happen, and augmenting it with technologies like VR, virtual reality, or augmented reality, mixed reality. Of course, integrating the phone and not being in a mode of you can't use your phone here. Like so much has happened like that.
Yeah, no, this is absolutely beautiful, and that's what we see happening in China as well right now with the new retail. One part of it is definitely retail as a service, right? There is a lot of entertainment going on, gamification, there's a lot of fun that's being had in offline retail spaces. But at the same time, Chinese, being pragmatic as they are, new retail in China is all about maximizing the return on investment per square meter. So basically in China, because of their technology, because of the current state of affairs, because of the two tech giants that are leading the new retail revolution globally, they are able to build this future of what it's going to look like. And some of us may say, you know what, this looks like a circus. You come to a store and everything's moving. You need to interact. You need to do this. And at the same time, this is a place where actually they make a lot of money. So it's not just all the fuss. It's not just about, creating experiences and all this fluff, but it also has a business case, very strong business case. And China is the country right now in 2019 that actually puts it into place and tests it. With, for example, Alibaba, Hema supermarkets, right? They are losing money, yes, but they have so many people coming in, and they basically do the test concept, proof of concept. They figure out, they collect so much data, they figure out what works, what doesn't, and essentially then they're going to roll it out across the country. And all retail spaces are going to be renovating and changing as well. Do you think that with this rise of technology, with AI, with the state of affairs right now, basically globally, do you think that this love, empathy, these emotions are going to become more mainstream in people? Will we reach that? Because I know you follow mindfulness and you practice that, and there's a lot of thought going into what do you want to do as a human being, what do you want to do as a business owner, what kind of clients do you want to consult, what kind of impact do you want to have in this world? So do you think we are going to see the biggest revolution or evolution of humankind in terms of their mindset soon, or is it still far away? And what needs to happen in order for us to step there?
Well, I'm quite pessimistic about how far things are going to change, and that comes from statistics which show that increasingly, or a lot of people today feel that empathy is on the decline. And so this started back at the beginning of the century, somehow amplified by these devices that we're using, which are getting in the way, impeding on our ability to connect as human beings. Yet we're connected, but it's just there's something that's missing, and the narcissism, the Instagram world, I'm perfect, the number of likes, which is not an empathic space. So where I think that it becomes interesting is when you create a great brand, and a great brand has to have a purpose that's beyond making money for the individuals that own it. And the better purposes are the ones where if your company didn't exist, why would the world be worse off?
Yeah.
And if you can answer that question, then the chances are that you will hopefully want to integrate more empathy into your business, because it's a glue, it's a superpower that helps you to understand things and get over things. When you were talking about retail just before, interesting, I think somehow we need to review the metrics of a retail store. It needs to be included in the bigger picture, so you can have a test budget, but also, what is the purpose of this physical space?
Yeah.
And if you link it directly to the till sales, maybe then we'll struggle to create these experiences. You want to make the experiences payable. So you go to a cinema and you pay for a film. That's an experience, and I can understand that business model. But in the store, we're selling other things that include hard goods. And I've seen many tremendous experiences in China. And I think it was Uniqlo, but they created a store where you just walk through an experience, no merchandise. At the very end, you get to the very end, and then all of a sudden they provided some items you could buy.
Yes.
But the rest was online.
Yes.
And it was big screen, big production.
Pop-up stores.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then of course there's the is it Uniqlo, or where they have video games and well, I've seen them.
Right. And of course even British Museum. You know that even our British Museum here in London, they set up some pop-up stores in Shanghai in the department stores. You pay to enter, and as you pay, you get yourself a set of VR glasses, and then you basically walk around this little hall and you observe artifacts. And by the time you leave, you can buy some merchandise from the British Museum. So they make money because, first of all, they're promoting British Museum.
Sure.
Secondly, it's a paid experience. Thirdly, there's a lot of merchandise that you can buy. And fourthly, you also get your personalized stuff ready as well. For example, you can make an imprint. You really like this artifact. You can print it on your T-shirt with your name on.
Nice.
Yeah, which is happening in
plus
China
you're
right
getting
now.
in exchange education.
Of course.
So it's entertaining, it's educating for the person who's going through it. They can go home. It's something that they want to talk about.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I went to this museum and I made my own artifact shirt.
Absolutely. And this is happening right now. Guys, mindset, mindfulness, being a phenomenal business leader that actually cares about the people, the customers, and what is your goal, what is your purpose, what is your big impact on the world is the way to go, essentially. And I'm sure that together, all of us together can make a huge difference. So I'm a little bit more optimistic about it just because I choose, it is a choice. I believe that we cannot control situations, we can control problems and then we solve them. But situations, they come. So we have the power to influence our mindset and also the mindset of people around us, and together we can definitely make a change. I'm optimistic because I choose to, and the world is generally extremely interesting right now with all the technology, with all the future. The future looks bright, interesting, but I totally agree that we need a lot more emotions, a lot more empathy, a lot more love out there, because this is something no machines, no money can essentially buy and provide us.
I would say, we'll finish. My word is, I smile because I'm happy, but I'm also happy because I smile.
Yes.
And this is the insight. You don't need the whole world to be empathic. You need to be, because if you are, chances are you're going to succeed a lot more than your neighbor and your competitor, and that should get you stimulated.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this wonderful chat. Guys, don't forget to hit that follow button on LinkedIn, and we're going to chat soon.
Bye.